All right, welcome to another deep dive. We're going to be tackling something a little different today. We're going to be looking at how to talk about health in English.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And this is especially helpful, I think, if you are someone who is preparing for the IELTS exam. Have you ever heard of that?
Yes, absolutely. That's the International English Language Testing System, right?
You got it.
Yeah.
So it's a very popular exam for people who want to study or migrate to countries where English is the primary language.
I know a lot of people who have taken it.
And a big part of that exam is the speaking portion. So we're zeroing in on part one of the IELTS speaking exam.
Okay. Makes sense. So are we going to be giving tips on how to ace that part?
Yeah, exactly. Think of this deep dive as like a little cheat sheet to help you talk about your health confidently in English. And our source material today is a script from, get this, an IELTS prep podcast episode.
So meta. A
Yeah.
podcast about a podcast. That's kind of cool.
I know, right? And what's really interesting is it's not just about vocabulary. They go beyond that. They really dig into how to structure your answers, like how to give those answers that are going to impress the examiner.
So it's like not just knowing the words, but knowing how to use them effectively.
Exactly. So first things first, this source breaks down the IELTS speaking part one. That's all about those everyday topics, things like hobbies, family, and of course, health.
Right. The stuff you talk about all the time.
Exactly. And they really emphasize avoiding those super short answers.
Oh, you mean like just saying yes or no?
Yep. Because honestly, that doesn't really give you a chance to show off your English fluency, right?
It's like you're not giving the examiner enough to work with.
Totally. So
Yeah.
they recommend aiming for answers that are about 2 to 4 sentences long.
Okay, so like a sweet spot where you can give a full answer without rambling on too much.
Exactly. A nice, concise answer, a little explanation, and ideally a personal example.
So it's like showing them you can actually use the language in a natural way.
Right. So, for example, let's say the examiner asks you, do you like exercising?
Oh, that's a classic.
Instead of just saying yes,
Which I'm guilty of.
which, let's be real, we all do sometimes, they recommend saying something like,
Okay, let's hear it.
yes, I enjoy exercising because it helps me stay fit and reduces stress. I usually go jogging in the morning as it gives me energy for the day ahead.
Wow, that's so much better.
Yeah.
It feels more natural, and like you said, it gives the examiner a better sense of, how well you can speak.
Exactly. And speaking of language, they also talk about the importance of using a variety of vocabulary. So instead of just repeating exercise over and over again.
Which can get a little repetitive.
Right. Think about using synonyms like stay active, work out, or keep fit.
It's like showing off your vocabulary muscles.
Totally. And those little linking words like because, so, or however, those are super important too.
Oh yeah, those are like the little bridges that connect your sentences and make your speech flow better.
Exactly. And you know what's really cool? This source actually provides 2 role play scenarios to demonstrate what a good answer sounds like.
Oh, that's helpful so we can hear it in action.
Exactly. So the first role play features James as the examiner and Sophie as the candidate.
All right, let's see how Sophie does.
They're tackling some classic health-related questions. The first one is, do you think it's important to keep fit?
I'm curious to see what Sophie says.
Sophie says, and I'm quoting here, oh, absolutely. I believe staying fit is crucial for maintaining good health. It not only helps to prevent diseases like obesity and diabetes, but also improves mental health.
See, she's already giving a strong reason right there.
Yeah, she's not just saying yes or no. She's giving a full explanation.
And then she adds, for example, I find that regular exercise, like jogging, helps me feel less stressed and more focused.
So she's backing it up with a personal example. That's smart.
Right. Shows that she's not just, reciting memorized lines. She's actually connecting it to her own life.
Exactly. It makes her answer more believable and engaging, you know? And then James asks, what do you usually do to stay healthy? And this is where Sophie really shines, I think. She breaks down her answer into 3 key areas: a balanced diet, regular exercise, and getting enough sleep.
Okay, that's a good structure. It's clear and easy to follow.
Right. And she even mentions specific things like eating fruits and vegetables, doing yoga, and making sure she gets 8 hours of sleep every night.
So she's like painting a picture of her healthy lifestyle.
Exactly. And it shows the examiner that she's actually thought about the topic and can talk about it in detail.
It's not just a generic answer. She's giving specifics.
Right. And that brings us to the last question in this first role play. It's a bit of a tricky one. Do you think people in your country lead a healthy lifestyle?
Oh, that is a tough one. It's easy to fall into generalizations there.
I know, right? But Sophie handles it really well. She acknowledges that it's a complex issue, like it's not a simple yes or no answer.
So she's showing she can think critically and see both sides of the issue.
Exactly. She mentions that some people do prioritize their health, but others struggle because of their busy lifestyles or, the temptation of fast food.
Which is very relatable.
I know, right? But then she ends on a hopeful note, saying that she thinks the younger generation is becoming more health conscious.
That's a nice touch. It shows she's optimistic about the future.
Right, and it shows the examiner that she can express a balanced viewpoint, which is really important for those higher band scores.
Okay, so far, Sophie is killing it. What happens in the second role play?
Well, in the second role play, the tables are turned. Now, Sophie is the one asking the questions, and James is the candidate. And she starts off with a great one. What kinds of food do you think are unhealthy?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm curious to see how James tackles that.
Well, he focuses on foods that are high in sugar, salt, and unhealthy fats, like fast food, sugary drinks, things like that.
So he's hitting the major culprits.
Exactly. But what I like is that he doesn't just say these foods are bad. He actually explains why they're unhealthy.
Oh, okay. So he's giving the reasoning behind his answer.
Exactly. He talks about how they can contribute to health problems like obesity and heart disease.
So he's showing that he understands the link between diet and health.
Exactly. And that's so important, not just for the IELTS, but for any conversation about health. Instead of just stating opinions, you back them up with facts and explanations. It makes you sound more credible.
Like you've actually done your research.
Right. It's the difference between saying, I think fast food is bad, and saying, fast food can be detrimental to your health because it often contains high levels of saturated fat and sodium, which can lead to serious health problems like heart disease.
Yeah, that second one definitely sounds more convincing. You've got the evidence to back it up.
Exactly. So James is doing a great job so far.
He's on a roll. What's the next question?
All right, next up, Sophie asks James about his exercise routine. She wants to know, how often do you exercise?
Okay, let's see if James actually walks the walk.
He says he aims for at least 5 times a week, and he mixes it up with gym workouts and outdoor activities like hiking and cycling.
Nice. He's not just saying I exercise regularly. He's giving specifics.
And that's what makes his answer so good. It's believable and engaging. Plus, he links exercise to both physical fitness and productivity, so it shows he has a broader understanding of its benefits.
Yeah, he's not just focused on the physical aspects. He's thinking about the mental benefits, too.
Exactly. And that's something we can all relate to, right? Even if we're not prepping for the IELTS, being able to articulate how exercise fits into our lives is helpful.
Like when you're talking to a friend about fitness goals or maybe explaining your routine to a personal trainer.
Exactly. Those details really matter. They paint a picture.
So James is doing a great job of showcasing his language skills and his healthy lifestyle.
He is. Okay, last question from Sophie. Do you prefer exercising indoors or outdoors?
Ooh, I like this one. It's about personal preference.
And James, being the adventurous type, says he loves being out in nature.
Yeah, me too. Fresh air, sunshine, it's the best.
But he also acknowledges that he'll exercise indoors when the weather isn't cooperating. Like if it's raining or snowing.
That's smart. It shows he's flexible and has a realistic approach to staying active.
Right. It's like he's saying, hey, I'm committed to this, rain or shine.
Which is important for anyone who wants to make exercise a habit.
Exactly. So James has successfully navigated all of Sophie's questions in this second role play.
Impressive. He's a natural.
He is. But I think it's important to remember that these skills aren't just for the IELTS exam.
Oh, absolutely. These are valuable skills for anyone who wants to talk about health confidently in English.
Imagine you're traveling and you need to explain a dietary restriction to a server.
Or maybe you're talking to a doctor about a health concern.
Exactly. Being able to express yourself clearly and confidently in those situations can make a huge difference.
It can even impact your health outcomes.
You're right. I remember when I was traveling and I had to explain my food allergies to a server in a restaurant. I was so nervous.
Oh, I bet. Food allergies are serious business.
They are, but being able to explain it clearly and calmly, using the right vocabulary and sentence structures, it really put me at ease.
So those language skills really came in handy.
They did. It made the whole experience so much smoother.
That's a perfect example of how these skills can be applied in real-world situations.
Exactly. It's not just about passing a test. It's about equipping yourself to navigate the world with confidence.
Absolutely. So we've seen how Sophie and James aced those role plays, but what if you're aiming for those really high band scores in the IELTS? What else do you need to know?
Well, the source highlights a few more crucial things. Fluency and coherence are key. You want to speak at a natural pace without those long, awkward
Like
pauses.
you're having a normal conversation.
Exactly. And those linking words we talked about earlier, and, but, because, and, for example, those are your best friends.
They really help to glue your sentences together.
They do. And don't forget about vocabulary. You want to use a variety of words and phrases.
So instead of just saying healthy lifestyle, you might say maintain a healthy lifestyle.
Exactly. Or instead of healthy food, you could say balanced diet.
It's all about showing the examiner that you have a wide range of language at your disposal.
And don't be afraid to use more sophisticated phrases like prevent illnesses or boost your immune system.
Those show a deeper understanding of health-related vocabulary.
They do. And remember, it's not just about the words themselves, but also about how you use them. You want to mix up your sentence structures.
So don't just use simple sentences all the time.
Right. Instead of saying, I like yoga because it's relaxing, try something like, yoga helps me to unwind and de-stress, both physically and mentally.
Ooh, that sounds much more impressive.
It adds depth and shows a wider grammatical range.
It's like taking your language to the gym.
I love that analogy. Now, I know some people get really worried about making mistakes.
Oh yeah, the fear of messing up.
But the good news is the examiner is mainly focused on your ability to communicate effectively.
So, a few minor errors won't kill your score.
Exactly. Don't let a little slip up derail your entire response. Just keep talking and try to stay composed.
It's like learning to ride a bike. They're going to wobble a bit at first, but with practice, you'll get better.
Exactly. And speaking of practice, the more you familiarize yourself with these types of questions and practice structuring your answers, the more confident you'll become.
Practice makes perfect, right?
Absolutely. It's all about getting comfortable with the format and showing off your language skills.
So we've covered a lot of ground here, but before we move on, I want to emphasize one more thing. It's about context.
Context.
Yeah, like it's not enough to just state facts or opinions. You need to explain the reasoning behind them.
Oh, I see what you mean. Like, instead of just saying, I think fast food is unhealthy, you might say something like,
Let's hear it.
I believe fast food can be detrimental to one's health because it often contains high levels of saturated fats and sodium, which can contribute to serious health problems like heart disease.
Exactly. You're adding that extra layer of explanation to show that you really understand the topic.
It's like building a solid argument, but instead of trying to win a debate, you're aiming to share your knowledge and understanding in a clear and compelling way.
Precisely. And this applies to any health-related topic, whether it's nutrition, exercise, mental health, or even healthcare systems. The more you can explain the why behind your statements, the more credible and persuasive you'll come across.
You know what, you're right. This whole conversation about providing context reminds me of something we talked about earlier, the power of using examples.
Oh yeah. Examples are a great way to bring your answers to life and make them more relatable.
Instead of just saying, I believe in a balanced diet, you could say something like, I believe in a balanced diet, so I try to include plenty of fruits, vegetables, and whole grains in my meals.
Or instead of saying, exercise is important for stress management, you could say, exercise is important for stress management. And I find that going for a run after work really helps me unwind and clear my head.
Exactly. It's like showing your work instead of just telling the answer.
Right. Those examples provide concrete evidence to support your claims, and they make your answers more memorable.
And don't be afraid to get personal. Sharing your own experiences can make your answers more authentic and engaging.
It's like inviting the listener into your world and letting them see how these concepts play out in real life.
Exactly. So we've covered a lot of ground today, but I want to leave you with one final thought.
Ooh, I love a good cliffhanger. What is it?
Well, think about how the examples and language used in these IELTS role plays could be adapted to discuss other health-related topics beyond the exam.
That's a great point. It's like we've given you a set of tools, and now it's up to you to build something amazing with them.
Exactly. The IELTS might be the initial spark, but the ability to discuss health effectively, that's a lifelong skill that can enrich your conversations and empower you in countless situations.
So whether you're prepping for the test or simply want to navigate health conversations with more confidence, remember the key takeaways from this deep dive. Structured answers, diverse vocabulary, compelling examples, and a dash of personal touch. Those are the ingredients for success.
And never underestimate the power of context. Explaining the why behind your health-related statements elevates your communication from simply stating facts to sharing genuine understanding.
Well said. It's about taking it to the next level.
Exactly. So thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of health communication. We hope you've gained some valuable insights and feel ready to tackle any health-related conversation that comes your way.
And remember, the journey to effective communication is ongoing. There's always something new to learn and explore. Keep asking questions, keep practicing, and keep those conversations flowing.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay healthy.
Cheers to that.
Okay, so we were talking about giving context and examples, and, that really reminds me of those role plays we were listening to earlier with James and Sophie.
Oh, yeah. Those were good.
They were great, right?
Yeah.
And I think we left off on the first role play. I think we were about to move on to the second one.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's where Sophie's asking the questions, right?
Exactly. So let's jump back in. Sophie starts off by asking James, what kinds of food do you think are unhealthy?
Okay. Let's see what he says.
So James being, health conscious, he immediately jumps to foods high in sugar, salt, and those unhealthy fats.
Yeah, the usual suspects.
Usual suspects, right? He gives examples, too, like fast food and sugary drinks.
Of course. Makes sense.
But what I thought was really interesting was that he doesn't just label them as bad,
Oh, he actually explains why they're considered unhealthy.
Exactly. He connects them to potential health problems.
Smart. Like obesity or heart disease.
Exactly. And that's such a crucial point, I think.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just about saying what you think. It's about explaining why you think that.
It is, because it shows a deeper understanding, right?
Totally. Like you're not just repeating something you heard, you're actually thinking about it.
And that's something to keep in mind even outside of the IELTS exam.
Oh, for sure. Like if you're discussing nutrition with a friend or even reading about health online, it's always good to look for those explanations, the reasons behind the claims.
Exactly. Because anyone can just throw out opinions, but when you can back them up with facts and, explain the why, it makes your conversation so much more meaningful.
It shows you've really thought about it.
Yeah.
That you're not just taking things at face value.
Exactly. All right, so moving on, Sophie then asks James about his exercise routine.
Oh, good one. How often do you exercise? A classic.
Yes, how often do you exercise? And James, being the fitness enthusiast that he is in this role play, he says he aims for at least 5 times a week.
Wow, 5 times. That's impressive.
Right. He doesn't just stop there, though. He goes on to say that he mixes it up with gym workouts and then some outdoor activities like hiking and cycling.
So he's got a varied routine.
He does, and it's a great example of, providing those specific details instead of just saying, oh, I exercise regularly. It just makes his answer more believable and engaging.
It does. And it kind of gives you a glimpse into his personality, too.
Oh, for sure. Like, you can tell he's someone who enjoys being active and values variety in his workouts.
And that's something we can all learn from.
Yeah.
Right? Even if we're not prepping for an exam.
Yeah, totally. Being able to talk about how exercise fits into your life, it can be helpful in so many situations.
Like, think about if you're discussing fitness goals with a friend. Or even explaining your routine to a new personal trainer.
Exactly. Those details help people understand you better.
It's about going beyond those vague statements and showing you've really thought about it, how exercise impacts your life, what you enjoy doing, what works for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And for James, in this scenario, it's a mix of indoor and outdoor activities. So, of course, Sophie, being the inquisitive examiner, asks, do you prefer exercising indoors or outdoors?
Okay. I'm curious about his answer. I'm an outdoors person myself.
Well, James admits that he loves being out in nature.
Good man.
Right. But he's also realistic. He acknowledges that sometimes the weather doesn't cooperate.
True. Can't always rely on the sunshine.
Exactly. So he says that, he'll hit the gym or find something to do indoors when it's raining or too cold.
Which shows he's flexible and committed to staying active no matter what.
Right. He's not letting a little bad weather derail his fitness routine.
And that's an important takeaway, I think. Whether we're talking about exercise or, any other aspect of health.
Yeah, life throws us curveballs. Being able to adapt and find solutions is crucial.
It is. You got to be able to roll with the punches.
Exactly. So we've seen James do a fantastic job in both of these role plays, answering questions about unhealthy foods, exercise frequency, and even his preference for indoor versus outdoor workouts.
He's a model IELTS candidate.
He is. But, I think it's important for us to step back for a moment and really think about how these skills we're discussing, they can benefit you beyond just the IELTS exam.
Oh, for sure. It's bigger than just the test.
It is, because it's about being able to confidently discuss health in any situation.
That's a valuable skill in so many areas of life.
Imagine you're traveling and need to explain. It does, but I was able to explain it clearly and calmly using the right vocabulary and sentence structures, and it just put me at ease.
So it worked out well.
It did, and it made the whole experience so much smoother because they understood and they were able to accommodate my needs.
That's a perfect example of how these language skills we're talking about can come into play in real life.
Right. It's not just about passing a test. It's about equipping yourself to navigate the world with confidence when it comes to your health.
Absolutely. It's about empowerment.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the benefits of these communication skills, but let's get back to the IELTS for a minute.
Back to the exam.
Because if you're really aiming for those higher band scores, those top scores, there are a few more things to keep in mind.
Lay it on me. What are those extra tips?
Well, fluency and coherence are super important.
Yeah, that makes sense. You want to speak smoothly and naturally without those long, awkward pauses.
Exactly, like you're having a conversation with a friend.
Right. You don't want it to sound like you're reading from a script.
And remember those linking words we talked about earlier, like and, but, because, and for example, they're your secret weapons.
Yeah, those are essential for connecting your ideas and making your speech flow.
And then there's vocabulary.
Of course. Gotta have a good range of words.
The source really encourages using a variety of phrases and words.
So mix it up.
Mix it up, right. Like instead of just saying healthy lifestyle all the time, try maintain a healthy lifestyle or swap out healthy food for balanced diet.
It's about showing the examiner that you're not just using basic vocabulary.
Exactly, like you're comfortable using more nuanced language.
And don't shy away from those more sophisticated phrases either.
Oh, you mean like prevent illnesses or boost your immune system?
Exactly. Those show a deeper understanding, and they can really impress the examiner.
They can. And remember, it's not just about the words themselves, but how you use them.
Oh, you mean like the grammar and sentence structure?
Exactly. Like, don't just use simple sentences all the time. You want to mix it up.
Add some variety.
Right. Instead of saying, I like yoga because it's relaxing, try something like, yoga helps me to unwind and de-stress, both physically and mentally.
Ooh, that's fancy.
It is. It adds depth and shows that you have a good grasp of grammar.
It's like taking your language to the gym.
I love that analogy. Now, I know a lot of people get nervous about making mistakes, especially in a high-pressure situation like the IELTS exam.
Yeah, the fear of messing up can be paralyzing.
But here's the thing. The examiner is primarily focused on your ability to communicate effectively.
So a few small errors won't completely tank your score.
Exactly. Don't let a little slip-up derail your entire response. Just keep talking, try to stay calm and composed.
It's like learning to ride a bike. You're going to wobble a bit at first, but with practice, you'll become more stable and confident.
Exactly. And speaking of practice, the more you familiarize yourself with these types of questions and practice structuring your answers, the better you'll become.
Practice makes perfect, or at least it makes you a lot more comfortable.
It does. So if you're prepping for the IELTS, don't be afraid to practice.
The more you do it, the less scary it'll seem.
Absolutely. Okay, so before we wrap up this section on the IELTS, I want to circle back to something we talked about earlier, and that's the importance of providing context.
Oh yeah, context. Remember, it's not enough to just state facts or opinions. You need to explain the why behind them.
Exactly. Like instead of just saying, I think fast food is unhealthy, you could say something like,
Let's hear it.
I believe fast food can be detrimental to one's health because it often contains high levels of saturated fats and sodium, which can contribute to serious health problems like heart disease.
Perfect. You're not just stating a fact, you're explaining why it's a fact.
And that's what makes your answer stronger and more convincing. It's like you're presenting a well-reasoned argument. You're not just throwing out random thoughts, you're building a case.
Yeah, and you're supporting your claims with evidence. And this approach, it applies to any health-related topic, right?
It does.
Whether you're talking about nutrition or exercise, mental health, or even, healthcare systems.
It's about going deeper.
It is. It's about showing that you've really engaged with the topic.
And this whole idea of providing context, it reminds me of something else we touched on earlier, and that's the power of using examples.
Oh, yeah, examples. Those are like gold, right?
They are. They can really bring your answers to life.
They do. And they make them more relatable, too.
Exactly. Like instead of just saying, I believe in a balanced diet, which sounds kind of generic, right?
Yeah, a bit vague.
You could say, I believe in a balanced diet, so I try to include plenty of fruits, vegetables, and whole grains in my meals.
Much better.
Oh.
Now you're painting a picture.
Exactly. Or instead of saying, exercise is important for stress management, which we've all heard a million times.
Yeah, it's true. but it's kind of a cliche at this point.
You could say, exercise is important for stress management, and I find that going for a run after work really helps me unwind and clear my head.
Love it. Now it's personal. It's your experience.
And it makes it more believable, right?
It does. Because we can all relate to that feeling of needing to de-stress after a long day.
Exactly. So yeah, examples are not just for making your answers longer, they're about adding depth and making your points more memorable.
And don't be afraid to get personal. Sharing your own experiences, like Sophie did in those role plays, can make your answers more authentic and engaging.
Oh, totally. It's like you're saying, hey, I'm not just talking about this in theory, I actually live this.
Exactly. You're putting yourself out there, and that can make a big difference. So, okay, we've talked a lot about IELTS, about health, communication skills. What's the big takeaway? What should our listeners be thinking about as they go about their day?
I think the biggest takeaway is this. Think about how the examples and language we've discussed today, how they can be applied beyond the IELTS exam.
Oh, that's good. Like, even if you're not taking the IELTS, these skills are valuable, right?
They are, because at the end of the day, being able to talk about your health effectively, that's a life skill.
It is, and it can benefit you in so many ways.
Whether you're talking to your doctor, your friends, or even just advocating for yourself in any health-related situation.
Absolutely. So yeah, take these tools and use them.
Use them. So to wrap up, whether you're prepping for the IELTS or simply want to boost your confidence when talking about health, remember those key ingredients for success, those structured answers.
Oh yeah, make sure you answer the question, explain your reasoning, and give a nice example.
Exactly. And don't forget about that diverse vocabulary. Use those synonyms, those sophisticated phrases,
Show off a little and
Yeah.
make it personal. Share your experiences, make it relatable.
And most importantly, remember to provide that context.
The why behind your statements.
Yeah.
Because that's what elevates your communication to the next level.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
So thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of health communication.
This was a great one.
It was. And we hope you feel equipped and ready to tackle those health conversations, whether it's for the IELTS or just for life in general.
Because, let's face it, health is something we all talk about.
We do. So until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay healthy.
And keep those conversations flowing. See you later.